Before we dive into this episode of Retrospective, I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone who's watched, commented, and subscribed from the Midnight Club Los Angeles video. Games and Gears started off as a folder of ideas in my notes app on my phone, and it's something that I've always wanted to do. I would have never expected to get over 100 views on the History of Zombies videos, let alone over 6,000 on the Midnight Club one. This channel is a hobby of mine, but you all have lit a fire under me to get to work more regularly on it. Again, thanks for watching, and let's jump into today's video.
County.
I copy 31.
Turning on a speeder that just flew by me.
In the year 1998, Electronic Arts acquired a relatively small studio based in Vancouver, known then as Black Box Games, which only had developed a few games in NHL 2K, NASCAR 2001, and NHL Blitz 2002. But these weren't the games that the studio would become known for. That would start in the year 2002 with their first shot at EA's Need for Speed franchise in Hot Pursuit 2. A game that would usher in a new golden age of racing games for generations to come. As I previously stated, Hot Pursuit 2 was the studio's first time developing a game within the franchise, and to make the challenge even harder for them, they were developing for what was the lead console at the time, the then new PlayStation 2. The other console and PC ports would be handled by the veteran studio of EA Seattle, the original developers behind the first 3 Need for Speed games. Despite all this, the PS2 version would go on to rave reviews, and players at the time would notice the glaring difference in quality and fun between it and EA Seattle's version, which we'll explore further to see what made Black Box's version so much more enjoyable. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 builds on the strong foundations built by the 1998 Hot Pursuit game with police chases, split screen, and various race types. This is also where the Black Box version begins to separate itself and truly shine against EA Seattle's. Much like Hot Pursuit 1998, the player has 2 different main race modes to choose from, with the first being the World Championship mode, which gives the classic Need for Speed fans a traditional racing experience of driving exotic cars in scenic places, either in a time trial, circuit, or lap knockout race. This mode allows you to really focus on each car and the handling model of the game, which is great and grippy, but it does lead to a very repetitive gameplay loop. The real entertainment lies within the second game mode. Ultimate Racer is the single best part of Black Box's version of Hot Pursuit 2, and it's where the magic really does lie. See, Ultimate Racer takes the same racing formats, same available cars, and the same tracks that you use in World Championship, but it dials that action up to 11 by throwing the entire police force at you to keep you on the edge of your racing seat and keep you excited. While this may seem annoying at first, I do enjoy this as it helps to even out the playing field and keep the person out in front a bit closer to you as they're being pestered by the police. Racers can get up to 4 stars of a wanted level during an event, and as your star rating increases, the aggression and the resources from the police force itself increase as well. Much like the chases themselves, the aggression starts off slow, with ramming, amping up to pit maneuvers as an attempt to spin you out during a race, then escalating to rolling roadblocks to box you in, spike strips laid out on the racing lines, all the way up to a helicopter that can either drop explosive barrels to bring you to a temporary stop, or spike strips, and missiles in the higher level races. All of this just to stop a few idiots from driving fast on public roads. I can only imagine what this police force would do to people at a street takeover. Alongside the star rating, each racer also has a set number of strikes allocated to them, and if you're pulled over 3 times, you're out of the race and need to start it all over again, which raises the stakes higher than just losing time. Thankfully, in Black Box's version of the game, the player has a way to fight back, as cops are destructible, so if you hit them hard enough, you can take them out to buy yourself some time and, more importantly, a bit more breathing room. You could also pull off one of my favorite moves, which is a game of chicken with the wall or barrier, where you move at the last second, causing the cop to take themselves out. Classic. The omission of taking out cops in EA Seattle's version is one that's very puzzling, as being able to fight back actively makes the racing and interactions even better. It gives you as a player a sense of empowerment where even if we don't have our own counter traps or helicopters with missiles, we have a hammer that has a massive engine, incredible power, but more importantly, it's indestructible. That last part is pretty key to me, and it's where the newer Need for Speed entries such as Payback or Heat drop the ball. While making our cars as destructible as a police car is more realistic and fair, it removes that sense of empowerment because now you're essentially not allowed to fight back against the sheer volume and resources of the police force. And if you do, it opens you up to being busted just because you damaged out. Connecting some of these gameplay dots backwards in hindsight reveals that the addictive nature of Black Box's most iconic game, Need for Speed Most Wanted, has its humble roots right back here in Hot Pursuit 2, with high-octane police chases, indestructible player vehicles, and more. Now, if you felt bad harassing the police force in Ultimate Racer, and if you too think that these damn street racers need to be stopped, then boy do I have some great news for you. The third game mode in Hot Pursuit 2 is the Be the Cop mode, which returns from the 1998 game. But now, you too can commit your own war crimes on supercars and call in your very own spike strips, roadblocks, and of course, missile barrages. Now obviously, this police force didn't spend their entire military budget on methods just to stop you, so you also get an entire fleet of various vehicles at your disposal to stop racers. Much like the police that chase you in Ultimate Racer, your police car also gets faster alongside the other racers. So when they have something like a Lotus Elise, you have your Crown Vic. When that's too slow and they get a Corvette Z06, you get a Mustang Cobra R to show them you're just as fast. And when they decide that it's time to push over 200 miles an hour with a McLaren F1, you'll be right behind them in a Lamborghini Murcielago. Beyond just sheer horsepower and cylinders, police cars are also equipped with a nitrous boost system to help you catch up should you spin out, and this would go on to become a staple in future Need for Speed titles. Be the Cop is such a blast to play through, and it does break up your gameplay loop a bit more during the longer playthroughs. I also have great memories of playing both this and Ultimate Racer split screen with my brother as a kid, arguing whenever we pulled one another over, and fighting against the cops together, pushing one another along if we hit a spike strip. Moments like that are what I, and plenty of others that have played Hot Pursuit 2, always bond over. It was a highly focused game where the developers knew what the players would find fun, and they honed in on that and evolved it further from its original introduction in 1998. The gameplay in Ultimate Racer and Be the Cop is absolutely top-notch, and it still holds up today. Now, racing is nothing without amazing cars and some killer music to push you to go faster. And I'm real happy to say that Black Box has delivered on both ends. Starting with the car list. While it is small compared to what we're used to with a total of 23 standard cars and just 5 police cars, Black Box have also given players an additional 21 special Need for Speed Edition cars to unlock through their playthrough, which feature unique paint jobs, liveries, and offer higher top speeds than their standard counterparts. Unlocking all these cars will either come down to completing events that offer new models as reward, or earning enough Need for Speed points that you earn by drifting, tailgating, near missing, things like that throughout a race. Some of the special Need for Speed variants can be the grindiest cars to earn, with models like the Carrera GT Concept and McLaren F1 requiring well over 3 million points to unlock. While small, each car on this list is incredibly special, and as a kid it showed me quite a few different brands that I had no idea existed, like McLaren and Aston Martin, and also showed me some absolutely insane cars that I'd never even heard of, like the CLK GTR, a bespoke GT1 race car, or something more tame but equally rare to an American like me in the Ford TS50, an Australian V8 cruiser of a sedan that would also feel right at home here in the States. The soundtrack of this game is also the first licensed one to appear in a Need for Speed game, and it's one of my favorite. Full of rock, grunge, metal, and more, it pairs very nicely with the high-octane gameplay. The intro cutscene features hot action cops going down on it, which wins the award for song that is definitely a lot better censored than uncensored, and it's an absolute banger to start off with, and only gets better with tracks like Ordinary by the Buzzhorn and Keep It Comin' by Uncle Kracker. don't laugh at me, it was the 2000s. The design of the menus also add an overall grunge rock aesthetic that is present throughout the black box game, and it really separates itself from Seattle's version, as while it too uses licensed tracks for the menus, during racing it goes back to an original soundtrack, which is fine, but Black Box on the other hand utilizes instrumental versions of the licensed music, which is just so much more fitting when blowing past the spike strip in a McLaren F1. Hot Pursuit 2 is the definition of a cult classic, and even though it's now 20 years old, God, it is 100% worth playing. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that, well, this is a 20-year-old game, so you should go into it with the expectation that it does what it says on the can, and it does it very well. The Hot Pursuit chases an ultimate racer deliver on engaging battles with both opponents and the cops that'll keep you wanting more. An older racing game like this is a good juxtaposition against the review I last did in Midnight Club LA, which is a game that's constantly bombarding you with all these little side quests and activities and races to complete. And while I do love games with a lot of content like this, Hot Pursuit's simplicity and straightforwardness is a breath of fresh air, and it lets you focus on the gameplay loop so much more. While I'd love to see a new version of Hot Pursuit, we did get a spiritual successor in 2010 with Criterion's take on the series, which brings over a lot of the great aspect of this game into itself. It did well enough for it to warrant a remaster which included all of its DLC content and a little bit of upscaling when it was 2020, because it turned 10? Damn, there's that old feeling again. But as for a direct successor or remake of Black Box's game, I think the industry has moved well beyond a straightforward, simplistic racing game in their chase for player retention and, more importantly, monetization. EA has been especially egregious since Hot Pursuit 2010 with both loot boxes and shipping a game that's just not complete at all. Publishers want a game that will keep players engaged, and more importantly, paying for content like battle passes and skins. Players themselves also want more from a game with bigger car lists, more racing modes, and more importantly, deep customization beyond just choosing paint or special cars. The latter is something I think that is a result of the games Black Box produced after Hot Pursuit in the golden era of Need for Speed. As for Hot Pursuit 2, I think this is a game that still holds up very well, and will show you where that golden age of Need for Speed began with Black Box. So what do you think? Have you played Hot Pursuit before, and what were some of your favorite parts? Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the comments, but more importantly, in the next one too.